start with as well. Hello, hello, hello. I'm so excited. Infertility is a topic that has caused much despair to many people. It is incredibly prevalent, very surprisingly so. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of logic to it. And so it takes a lot of resilience to go through the process of correcting infertility or finding your answer to it. And I've also discovered that some of the things that we say to people to make them feel better are not necessarily helpful. And so I have the privilege of interviewing today. We're going to do 2 interviews. One is the regular businessy professional details of what goes on in treating someone for infertility with my beautiful guest, Pamela Rasheed, who is a nursing specialist in infertility. So she's going to give us the professional, this is what goes on, this is and some ideas on what can help people. And then after half an hour, we will do a new interview on a new platform, which you will find in the description that I've put there, because we're going to go behind the scenes to the faith. Many of you know I am a Christian, so is Pamela, and there are alternative answers in the faith community in that. So those of you who know, I have the ministry website, I have the ministry YouTube channel. That's where we will go at the end of this interview. For those of you who would like to know more about stories of miracles and also some extra helpful things particularly for Christians who are trying to conceive, that may be helpful for them. So I do speak to 2 different audiences. One is the regular, often business but secular audience, but I also have my ministry following. So you're welcome to participate in both. And by all means, if you are watching on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, please participate, add your comments. And when I see them up there, I will add them to the screen. If you're watching this as a replay, then feel free to like, comment, and also I want to ask everybody as we go, subscribe if you're watching, particularly if you're watching on YouTube. So join us there so I can continue to reach more people, because I have a certain level of expertise, but it's wonderful when I can talk to someone who is a guest. So Pamela, welcome, and why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your background and how you got to be where you are now.
Okay, thank you so much, Trish. This is quite a privilege for me to be on this platform, and I'm very grateful that you were so generous to invite me. I am a nurse with a master's degree in New York, USA, and my specialty is women's health with a major focus on infertility. I've been in the field of infertility for 13 years, and in this field I do help women and their partners overcome infertility. There are so many issues that they face. It could be a male factor, it could be a female factor, there could be unexplained reasons as well. And when a couple is trying to conceive and months have passed, for example, a couple that's younger than 35, and they have not succeeded, it's time, if they're younger than 35 and they've not conceived in about 6 months or to a year, it's time for them to seek fertility help. If they're older, 6 months is just tops. You shouldn't even wait longer than 6 months because of the biological clock that ticks for women. So within 6 months of trying and no success, it is time to really seek out a fertility specialist. So I work with patients across the age groups, patients across culture, across racial backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds. And infertility is something that is still very shrouded in secrecy. Patients don't want to know or want to know that they're infertile. They don't want others to know that they're infertile or they're facing this battle trying to conceive. And so it becomes a lonely journey. It becomes an uncertain journey. Lots of questions are raised, and men and women are not that ready to set their feet into the clinic to get a diagnosis that they never thought was their diagnosis of infertility. So, the vast years of experience that I've had, I decided to write a book about the inside world of infertility. And it is a book that has been making waves, called Barren, The Inside World of Infertility. And it's been helping people around the world.
That is fabulous. Thank you for telling us about your background and where you've come from. You have a lot of credibility. You are someone that we can really listen to. Just hold up your book again for us. Let's get a look at that. So, Barren, The Inside World of Infertility. Fantastic. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that up on. Now, would you like me to go to your website or to Amazon? I think
you can go to gentlenursinfusion.com website. You can even go to Amazon. Actually, Amazon has the Kindle and the Audible book as well, in addition to the paperback.
Right, but your website, tell us again the website.
So the website is, yes, gentlenurse101.com.
Okay, gentlenurse101.com. Okay, and
it should pop up. It would pop up there.
Great. No, that's fantastic. That's where we want it. Gentlenurse101.com. Gentlenurse101.com. And what I would like to do. There we go. That's beautiful, because this is important. This is not just, oh, look who we have here. Thank you. Welcome, Christina. It's great to have you contribute to our video. She's saying, well done, Pamela Rasheed, coming on the show. I really want to treat this seriously and with respect, because I have discovered that some of the things that I thought were encouraging to say were perhaps not so great to say to people. We will get to those. But I'm going to share the screen and show people your website, which will be, let's just see. What are you looking at now, Rasheed? Are you seeing? Okay, hold on. There we go. Great, Chrome tab. That's the one we want. And there we go. That's what I wanted to show. You're seeing your...
Yes, I can see that.
Great. So when they go to gentlenurse101.com, they will have the offer of buying the book, which is great. Always nicer to buy the book from the website. But for those of us in Australia, Amazon America doesn't necessarily like...
Yes.
We pay postage, but they can get the book from amazon.com.au, and Americans can get it from amazon.com. And so this is your website. You've got your homepage. You've got about you and the services that you offer. Yes. Patient reviews, very important, and resources. There's your book there. That's coming up. So Inside the World of Fertility. So Pamela, can you just give it, I realize there are lots of different options, but can you just give us a bit of insight for those of us who may not understand and don't really know what's going on, or for someone who has thought maybe I do need to do something about trying? What generally happens in the process?
Yeah, well, generally, men and women don't think that they have an infertility issue until they've been trying and then not conceiving. And then it dawns on them that perhaps, there is some issues. And fertility awareness is something that is still, something that members do not want to track that road, right? So they might think that they have an issue, but the bravery and the courage that they need to go to a fertility specialist might be what's lacking. Now, when women are aware of the possibility that issue, the next thing for them to do is to really have a talk with their husband, their male partner, to figure out what's really going on here. And a lot of the time, men are not on board because, you know, they don't want the fingers to be pointing to them. And
Right.
the first thing they should do is collaborate, you know, go and see a specialist. It is the hardest thing to do. The hardest step to take is actually setting your feet into a fertility specialist office. You feel that you've opened up your whole privacy to the world, right? So they're not going to be going to the fertility specialist as if it is going to an ice cream store, right? But once they get there and they get to understand that there could be several issues, there could be a blockage in the fallopian tube, they could be a low egg reserve, they could be a low sperm count, they could be, you know, endometriosis is something that also causes a very low egg count in even younger women. So there's an abundance of diagnoses that can be figured out, but they have to go through testing.
Right.
And then, you know, once they're scheduled to go through a semen analysis, blood work to check an egg reserve, an ultrasound, a salpingogram to look at the fallopian tubes, that period of time waiting for those results to come back is really a period of time that can cause a lot of stress because they don't know what the outcome would be of those results. And then doing a follow-up visit with their doctor to review those test results could be very nerve-wracking. But, you know, in medicine, it's very clear cut. You have to say to the patients, well, listen, there's a low sperm count, and that is very, very shocking. Or there's a blockage in your fallopian tube. We need to overcome that. Or there is a low egg reserve, and younger women have that. I mean, egg reserve do decrease with age, and so does egg quality for women. And the biological clock is always held up to the faces of these women, not to the men. So one of the shocking diagnoses during that time is if there's a male factor. And then, right, you've identified the problem. Now you've got to come up with a biological clinical plan to overcome that problem.
Okay, so Pamela, let me just jump in there. With the range of possibilities, and you get the testing done, not everything is super duper dramatic though, would you say? Sometimes it might be something relatively simple and easily treated.
That is correct.
So what I'm getting at is that you don't necessarily have to fear that it's a major thing that you know, that because people would be frightened to come and find these things out and be apprehensive. Now, sure, it could be, but quite often it can be something that is relatively easy to treat and overcome. And then you've got the other ranges of things.
That is correct. But Trish, taboo, stigma, those things play a very, very big part in even finding out the smallest problem that there might be to the largest problem. The two guards at the door, stigma, taboo, you know, opening up your privacy, those are the major setback. But once there's enough courage and encouragement from others, awareness, they step into that clinic, they can find out it's something very minimal. For example, if there is a low sperm count, okay, you know, you have to probably do an insemination because then you get a concentrated amount of sperm that goes right into the uterus. If there's a blocked fallopian tubes, there are some procedures that can canalize the fallopian tubes if it's not major. Patients who get pregnant even after doing that, histosalpingogram, where dye is put through the fallopian tubes. But some of the more shocking ones are no sperm, no eggs, or endometriosis, or hydrosalping, something that destroys the fallopian tubes.
Wow, there's such a variety of conditions that there can be. And I'd like to turn to our comments. We've got Wilfred Cameron, who says about your book that he saw an excerpt of your book and was impressed by its unique, refreshing style, and it's really well written. So it's simply and insightfully written. So it's a book that people are not going to be overwhelmed by medical speak. So that sounds like you've written it in a way that everyday people can actually understand.
Yes, absolutely. So this book is composed in 3 parts. So one is the clinical background, such as the diagnoses and also the treatment cycles, leading from just insemination, timed intercourse, which are the least invasive treatment cycle, up through IVF, even needing egg donation, embryo donation, or sperm donation. So those are, treading into really deep waters with those other clinical plans, which I've spearheaded those when I was at Columbia University. And I have actually worked with patients overseas who've come to Columbia University to get treated. So I was like the head nurse for that program related to egg and embryo donation. So I've had such a wide background with this. So I was able to bring that into this book, talking about all the treatment protocols. I was able to cover finances. And then part 2 of the book, amazingly, some of the patients that I've worked with had stayed in touch, send me photographs, keep me updated with videos of their babies, whether they got them from egg donors or they got them from donor embryos or IVF. So they have actually written their stories and given it to me to put into this book. So that's part 2. So it does have a very personal human touch to that. And then part 3, I gave my clinical expertise as a nurse. I talk about stigma. I talk about blame, taboo, all these things that get fiercely played in the background that the clinics don't really focus on. I mean, their job is really not to focus on those things. Their job is to determine a biological plan to overcome a medical diagnosis. So that is the job of the clinic.
Yeah, it really is a difficult thing when I know I haven't had a lot to do with doctors, but I have had a lot to do with lawyers. And I think what can be in common is the technical speak and the matter-of-fact way that they talk about situations, that they don't realize how emotionally impacting even their words are. We are going to talk about how we as lay people can be a bit more sensitive to those who are struggling, but professionals, like even just the phrase, Mr. Brown, you have a low sperm count, and just said in a very matter-of-fact way, it might not mean anything to a clinician, but to a man, that speaks straight to his perception of manhood. And even though it is a biological thing and it doesn't reflect him as the value as a man, psychologically it can be quite traumatic, and his self-esteem and ego, and women too. I mean, women are more often firstly assumed to have the problem, and I think our culture has basically valued women according to their capacity to reproduce babies, which is only one part of what we may choose to do. And I think, and we will go into this in the next interview when we talk about church, where it can be even worse, even harder to cope because of the great emphasis on the value of motherhood. And yet that's only one part of our lives, and it's a big part of our lives. So I think that's something that people, really should try to be prepared to try not to take it personally, but see it as a biology, and for the different reasons that these things can happen, whether health reasons, nutrition, and even then it's not about blame. It's about, okay, there's this, what do we do now?
Yes. Well, coming back to clinicians, I mean, this is something that they deal with every single day. So a diagnosis is a diagnosis, and their job there is to fix that. So they don't really pay a lot of attention to the emotions. And this is where nurses come in. I think that this is really where nurses come in. So as a nurse, I've paid attention to that. It's why I've developed these relationships, because I looked at the expressions on the faces of these patients, and I can almost think for a moment what might be going through their heads. And those were the places where I was able to meet my patients. Yes, the doctor's job is to give a medical diagnosis and a biological plan, and he keeps it moving. Now, I'm in the middle as a nurse. I need to bring that empathy. I need to bring that human touch there. And unfortunately, you don't see a lot of that, because nurses too, they need to get on with it, right? They need to get on with the plan that the doctor has determined. But I've taken time, and until now, I do take time with my patients to listen to them. What are their struggles? What are their inner struggles? Couples would go home and there would be fights. I had one couple who they were at the brink of divorce before she delivered.
Oh my goodness.
So many things happened, and she actually wrote her book, her story in my book. Her name is in my book. Her name is Sadie. They were going through that, so we don't know. Blame is a fierce game that gets played behind closed doors. And another day, the couple might come back to the clinic, and they were not together like they were when they first came. You can see a rift. If you have a discernment and an intuition as a caregiver, and you pay attention to those cues, you can actually pick up that there is some silent struggles there. And they may not succeed, but they will remember one thing. They were treated with dignity despite such a diagnosis. Yeah, and that is, I dealt a lot with that in the part 3 of the book.
I'm glad to hear that. And I would suggest too that in addition to yourself, these days there would be groups online, support groups for parents, and Facebook groups that I would encourage people to visit. It does help to meet with other people who have been in the same boat as you, and to get their understanding and compassion, and men can talk to other men who have been in that situation, who can encourage them and give them some perspective. So, as a society, we're here to support one another, not to tear each other down. There's so much that the medical world can do, and there's so much that we as friends can do, but there's also the people who've gone before, who've been in that situation, and whether or not they went on to successfully have a biological child, or whether they went on to adoption, or whether they decided that they would accept the situation as it is. There are people out there, and there are groups out there that can be supportive. You don't have to do this please don't do this on your own. And if it really is affecting your emotional, mental, and your health and your marriage, please go and get some help. Talk to someone. Don't just talk to anybody, because people can be careless in their effort to help. They can be careless, but if it helps to talk to a professional counsellor, perhaps in that field, then I really want to encourage that, because nothing worse than being so focused on trying to get this child that you shipwreck your marriage and relationship, and then you're on your own. You want to go through this together and well, so that it's whatever the outcome is, you still have that love and support, because it's the love that brought you together that made you want to create a child. So you don't want to go one and getting the other.
Yes. And I find, see, when celebrities talk about their infertility journey, or notable people like Michelle Obama had mentioned that she struggled with infertility, there was a rise in women of color who went to fertility help. So I believe that the proof is in the pudding, that when celebrities and notable people talk about infertility, it sort of destigmatizes the diagnosis and helps women to become a little more open. And you're right when you said earlier that women are the ones who are faced with the infertility, because they're always the ones to be blamed. And the reason is because they're the ones to carry the pregnancy, and they're the ones to nurture inside and outside a pregnancy. So oftentimes it's not their fault. Data has shown that it's 30% a male factor, 30% a female factor, and the remainder is just unexplained, right? So that information is there, and when celebrities talk, it does get others encouraged. But now, how many celebrities are talking? How many notable people are talking, right? So that is another very important factor. And in terms of counseling, yes, it's better to seek professional counseling. And one of the things that I offer through my website is counseling, because you might think that you're part of a group, maybe a strong family, or you have great friends, or you belong to a faith-based organization where you might be free to talk about fertility, but they might say the wrong thing. And their only intent is to make you feel better, but not oftentimes it does make you feel better.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And sometimes people will get their miracle through faith, and sometimes they get a different miracle, and it might not look exactly the way they want it to or had intended, but then it can be a blessing in that. You know, I never expected to go to prison, but it happened, and yet I've found so much good has come out of that, even though that was a path that was very drastic. Now, that's not the same situation, but, you know, as I often say to people, the strongest prison bars are in your head. And the prison bars of infertility they're not just biological. They can be the way you think about it in your head can cause you more trauma. And it's important to seek the help. And people who want to encourage you, they may say the wrong thing. And Pamela, you rattled off a list of things that people say that, oh, well, never mind, you know, you can always get a dog, or oh, you can always adopt, or you know, it's your marriage that's important, and so on. And even though these things, you know, or we can believe for a miracle, or worse, the worst, you know, sow a seed and sow a financial seed and believe for your breakthrough, which is just hideous advice.
Yes, absolutely.
Some of that advice, I don't know, but you know, or you can foster children. Look at all the ones who, you know, who need help. A lot of those things might be true, but the person isn't necessarily ready to hear it yet.
That is absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct.
It can be just brutal. You know, it's like someone's freshly divorced and they're hurting. You say, well, there's other fish in the sea. Come on, let's go out on a date. And it's like, that's the...
Yes. and their intent is... And their intent is to make you feel better, but it doesn't. So you really have to think for a moment, if you were in that person's shoes, right? Is this what you would want to hear?
Exactly. And it is hard to empathize sometimes, especially if you've had children who've been challenging and your guilt has been, I wish I'd never had them, or, you know, then it can be very hard to, you know, to relate. And so in those cases, you don't need
that is absolutely, yes, that is absolutely correct. Just listening, just sitting there and listening to someone just talk out what's troubling them. Just listen to someone venting. Just listen is all that it might take sometimes. If you don't have an input that is going to help, yes, just sit there and listen. I think that is the wiser choice, because infertility consumes, it consumes a woman or a couple, mostly a woman. When they're faced with that, it's all they can think about, morning, noon, and night. When they see a baby, when they see a newborn, all they can think about, when is it my turn? Because it does consume.
It does, and it's not just a biological thing. It's about identity. It's about lots of things, and it's not neat and tidy. Pamela Rasheed, my goodness, this has been so helpful, but so many people listening and watching will want to know so much more. And I do want to encourage people to purchase your book either through Amazon. I'm going to bring it up again. Hang on. Wait a minute. Add to stream. There we are. And what I'm also going to do, you can buy it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. Barren, the Inside World of Infertility. It is on Kindle, so you can get that from Amazon, or you can get that from Barnes and Noble, Amazon America, and Amazon Australia. And
it's in Canada, India, Denmark. It's in quite a number of countries. So
do
that's
that
available.
because you just don't know. Even if it doesn't affect you, there are people in your world that it may affect. It would be helpful to get the book and just become a bit more sensitive and helpful to the people around you. Even if your helpfulness is just not complaining about your kids in front of them. We don't have to share everything about ourselves. Just listen. I love that. Now, Pamela, as we wrap up, there's a couple of things that are going to. I want to encourage if someone is part of an association, or if there's a medical group, or some of you do professional speaking on this subject, Pamela. So I want to encourage people who are associated with any groups that do bring in speakers, any corporates. I'm just distracted by, we have another lovely comment from your friend Wilfred. So he's enjoyed the interviews. So
thank you, Wilfred.
Yeah, so there will be two.
And Trish, I just want to talk about fertility awareness. It is a very, very important topic. So fertility awareness, especially for women. Now, you might not be partnered and you might be in your early 30s. Don't think that when you become partner later in your 30s, that you are early 40s, that everything is going to be fine. Be aware of your fertility, because as a woman, as you age, your egg quantity and your egg quality decline. There is the program that offers egg freezing cycle, right? So you can bank those eggs, and a lot of companies here in America do offer fertility benefits. If you check with your organization, see if they offer fertility benefits and bank those eggs. I actually have a friend who did that when we worked together years ago, and today she has a baby girl in her 40s from eggs that she banked in her 30s. So be aware of your fertility. Don't wait to be partner and think that it's going to be the right time, because your egg quality and your egg quantity might decline drastically by then.
Wow, that's very sobering advice. So thank you, Pamela. That's really helpful, really sound, helpful advice. So, all right, we're going to come to a close and we're going to do a switch over. Now, in the text accompanying this video, I have put the links to where you can find where we're going to go. It might take us 30 seconds or maybe a minute to completely switch over. We're going to leave LinkedIn and the Trish Jenkins YouTube channel, which, by the way, please like and subscribe, and one of the Facebook pages that I have. And we're going to switch over to the YouTube Trish Jenkins Ministries channel, which should be listed in the text. We're going to go to the Facebook page, which is my ministry page, Trish Jenkins Ministries. And I'm also going to share it to my personal page for those, and that'll be public, that you can visit there. So when we do that, then, oh, look, you've had another fan, Claire, wonderful. If you'd like to stay with us, Claire, just switch over to the platforms that we're going to go to. So I'm going to now say goodbye to these platforms. Well, before we do that, once again, I want to remind people that Pamela Rasheed is a professional speaker. She teaches on this material. If you have a group or an interest group that would like to engage her, if you have a corporate company, if you are to do with where you provide health insurance and you'd like someone who's informed to talk to your staff, please have her come along, because it's not all doom and gloom. There is hope and there are strategies out there that can help you. So as we go out, I will play my outro video, because I too am a professional speaker and I build resilience and encouragement to people. And I just love having a platform where I can
That's right. Yes.
And make people feel good. So if you have an event where you would like a motivational, inspirational speaker, then pick me too. So all right, so we'll do that, and as the video comes to a close, I will do my best to smoothly transition to the other platforms, and we'll see you all there. Okay. Bye-bye.